Thank you. Yeah, my fun on Sunday morning is sitting out there listening to you guys. And I was about to say, now you got to listen to me, but they're leaving. They were there for first service. We're going to talk about closing out. Closing out. See, the last 2 weeks we've been looking forward. We've been looking into all the promise that 2020 provides. Now we're about 18, 19 days in. Time to look back for just a moment and see if we're accidentally dragging 219 with us. Okay? You know, when you first start, we are so into where we're going. We're positive that we're going to let it all go, and then a couple of weeks in, some of the old patterns start to come out again. I warned Reverend Johanni I'm going to talk about her for a second. She's just been coming the last few weeks, but she shared with me, she's got this video ministry that, in Spanish, right? Okay. But she did share with me one of the exercises she had done. I'm going to steal your exercise. She had me the other day take my hands. Go ahead, you can do this with me. Take your hands and put them together how they normally fit. She said, now, undo them and move them one finger up. Go like this. In the end, all you're doing is switching which thumb is over the top. Now switch them. She said, how does it feel? And I said, different. You know, one of these really distinct answers. In any case, she says, yeah, it's not as comfortable, is it? So this is the new. And it's not really comfortable yet. So what happens is, at first you say, this is better. I'm going to do it this way from now on. And before long, you find yourself sort of unconsciously slipping back and going back to the old way it was. And that's what we want to make sure we're not doing right now. Okay? We want to make sure we can hang on to the newness long enough that it becomes comfortable. And we're not slipping back. Sorry, just had to steal your stuff. What we're really talking about today is getting closure on the past. You can't just go from one year to the next and say it's gone. The truth is, the years seem to haunt us unless we get closure. Say, okay, I'm done with that. That is now done. Okay? We got to get closure with people. We got to get closure with experiences. Because the bottom line is, it's real easy to drag this stuff along with you. Resentment, guilt. Oh, there's another one in there. You can fill in the blank, right? These qualities, they tie stuff to us. We think we want to get rid of it, but if we have left negative energy in an event or with the memory of a person, you drag it with you forever. And that's what holds us back. And if we're really going to be free to claim what 2020 has for us this year, we're going to have to let go of all this stuff that was 219 and before, that we're still hauling around with us. So here we are, a couple of weeks in, when it's just likely that some of the old patterns might start sneaking back in, and we need to take a look and say, no, I'm going to have closure on these patterns. There was, if you've been around very long, you know I'm a movie buff, so I'm going to quote another movie. There's a movie with Jack Nicholson and Diane Keaton in it. Something's Got to Give. Anybody know that one? Yeah, okay. It's basically the story of a guy. He's an older guy who has, for the last 40 years, gone from woman to a serial right through, love him and leave him, et cetera, et cetera. Just keep going, just have a good time. Boom, 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 And he's done this for 40 years. Then he's got some strange happenings that means he's got to share the house with a woman his own age, and they developed this real affinity. He hasn't been with a woman his own age in so long. It's very strange. But in any case, you watch this whole thing evolve until even hard-nosed Jack Nicholson says, it feels almost like, and he hesitates and says, soulmates. Of course, then the old patterns sneak around and slip back in. So the relationship of Diane Keaton goes down, goes south. And finally, he's miserable over the whole thing, and he finally, where I'm going to fast forward to is very near the end of the movie. In the end of the movie, he's talking about what he did after he realized that the relationship had gone south, and he wanted to know why. So here he is talking to her at the very end, saying, for the last year and a half, I have been tracking down every woman that I ever went through and asking her perceptions of me, and what it did to her, and does she remember kindly or badly? He says, I have been giving hundreds of women closure. He wanted to know what's going on, so he was tracking them down, and he found a few who were very nice to him and said, oh, yeah, well, you were a nice little thing, not marrying worth, but nice, And he went, oh, okay. And then there were the ones who slammed the door in his face and would not speak to him at all. And then there were the ones who would speak to him and let him have a piece of their mind. He said, this whole process has been very illuminating. And then he adds, and very freeing. Closure is freeing. Getting closure is freeing. We need closure on our past, or we drag it with us. And when we get closure, there's this wonderful feeling of I'm free to go in a whole new direction, to claim some real newness. Closure's been important to me for a long time. Some people like to just, a relationship goes down the tubes and they like to just fade away. Me, I want to have that moment of closure. So back in my 30s and my single years, I did what I'm sure most of the women thought was pure torture, and that was that on the way out of a relationship, I would sit them down so we could have a debriefing. Usually it's like, just let me out of here, and instead I want to know what was wrong with me. And, I suppose the first one that I did that with was my ex-wife, and she's sitting there, what is wrong with me? And she's saying, I just want out of here. I don't have enough time. But, eventually she did come around and say some of the things that disturbed her about our relationship. And one of the things she said, and you've got to understand, when I would do this closure thing, I don't take everything as gospel truth. You're getting somebody else's opinion. Sometimes I'd listen through part of it and say, nah, I'm happy with that. I ain't changing it. But every once in a while somebody'd hit pay dirt. I'd go, oh, you might have a point there. Maybe I ought to do something about that. That my wife had a point. My first wife. On the way out, finally, one of the things she said, She said, one of the things that was difficult, that I found heavy after a while, was that you always insisted, you always said, what do you want to do? And you'd make me make the decision. I thought, that's bad? She says, well, it wasn't for a little while, and then finally it became a burden. I'm the one who made all the decisions. You said, what do you want? What do you want? And she said, I wished once in a while you'd have told me what you wanted. I thought about it a while. I said, okay, I got this straight from my dad. That was the way my dad always was. Now, my mom loved it. She was a control freak. She got to do anything she wanted. She just made every decision. But I realized, well, maybe I need to change this. So I actually set about changing, saying, okay, I'm going to leave that pattern behind. Now you go, oh, this doesn't sound good. Well, it's not as bad as you think. I'll still say, what do you want to do? But if you don't come up with an answer pretty shortly, I then will make a decision, and that's where we'll do. That's what we'll do. That's where we'll go. I actually became quite decisive. I still want you to have your choice, but if you're not sure, I will be. That's the way it is. Now, this is one change. I'm sure my second wife regretted what my first wife had taught me. Closure's when you look back and you get honest. You say, what really went down here? There was good, there was bad. In more recent years, I do it very differently. I find I need more closure with phases of my life, okay? Whole phases of life change. And when I'm moving from one phase to another, at least in the past 15 years or so, I've periodically tracked down everyone who was part of the previous phase to just have a moment, an intimate conversation with them, because I'm letting them go. But I need to know why. I need to, for a moment, admit to them my regrets, where I think I went wrong, apologize. I need to take a moment to cherish and celebrate what was good about that cycle and what we did together, whatever that cycle was. And make my peace with it. Because only when you make your peace with it can you truly let it go. If you haven't made your peace, it hangs around forever. I want to leave feeling like there's nothing hanging. Doesn't mean the other person won't be mad at me or won't disagree with me or all of that. But I try to be honest. Now, there are times when this is not wise. There are people you should not do this with, okay? And you know. You know who they are and how it works. But you can still get closure. You can still take this person into meditation and admit to yourself your regrets, how you thought maybe you failed in this situation, though you're pretty sure it's 99% them. But you can at least admit your 1% to yourself. And then you can take a moment to say, no, there was something good here. There was good that came out of this. And I want to remember that. And at that point, you can make your peace. And having made your peace with the situation or the person, you've now got closure. You're ready to let them go. You're ready to move on. That's the way it works. If you're not at peace, it'll drag on forever with you. And the very things that held you back last year can continue to hold you back this. So, today what I really want to talk about is achieving closure with 2019, everything it represents in your life. Okay? We want to have closure with 2019 so that we're ready for all the promises offered in 2020. It'd be real easy to put the hands back the way they used to be instead of this way. We want to make sure we're not doing that. And so we're going to have to let go of this so we can fully embrace that which lies beyond. So, what do you have to let go of out of 2019? There are a number of things we have to have. Yeah, would someone mention to the kids that, go on out. Yeah. There are several areas where we need to get closure if we're going to be free enough to go on. If we're going to let go of the past. The first is we're going to have to get closure with people. There are always people, right? We're going to have people relationships we need to close out. Some of them were relationships that were important in 2019, and some of them will go back 40, 50 years. Okay? We've all got people we're still dragging with us. We have these, it can be all kinds of things. A mate, family relationships. My brothers and sisters were terribly mean to me while I was growing up, and I've never forgiven them. My parents never acknowledged me properly. Whatever it is. And when we start getting into husbands and wives and mates and all of that, now we've dug something up. So consequently, do we really want to carry this any further? Our negative energy invested in them is what carries it forward with us. So it might be time to make a real effort to pull that negative energy out. Just as a sidelight, I sometimes am horrified by what people hear that I have said up here. On the way out, they go, "Well, I really liked it when you said," and I go, "Really? I said that?" And one day back in Fort Pierce, my very good friend Fred was he was a gifted musician, okay, one of the best I've ever known. And Brian isn't here, so I don't have to say that Brian was better. But in any case, Fred was a gifted musician. And he said, "I heard you say that I need to get rid of all the people in my life that are not on my path to where I'm going now." And I went, I'm not sure I actually said that. He says, "Well, no, I'm really into it. I'm going to do it." And I'm standing back semi-horrified, but, I don't like to tell people to move people out of their lives. He says, "No, I've come to the conclusion." She says, "I've got a lot of friends that are just dragging me down. I mean, these are friends from the past. They're my old druggy friends. We were musicians. We did all kinds of stuff. But I'm heading up here, and they show up, we hang out, and it's the old stuff." He says, "And I've decided I'm going to drop them. I'm going to slowly but surely pull the energy out of there, and I'm not going to nurture those friendships. I'm going to leave myself open to having friendships that support where I really want to go these days." Well, I couldn't argue with him, and in the end it worked out very, very well for him, and I sighed a sigh of relief. We all have somebody. A mate we still harbor resentment for, family relationship. This closing out with people is really, really important to our going forward. That's why if you're a 12-stepper, you know that making amends are steps 8 and 9. Okay? Letting it go. But it's not just people that we need to have closure with. We need to have closure with certain experiences or patterns. You may have experiences that happened ages ago that are still controlling your life today. They don't need to. We need to get closure with whatever it was that happened so we can go someplace new. Not have it drag us down this year. One of the ways we first make our peace with experiences, particularly of the last year, would be to make our peace with where you are now. Make your peace with where you are now. You want to make your peace with where you find yourself, even if you're not where you want to be. Because once you're at peace with where you are, you're free to go forward. Until then, it just kind of drags along with you and slows you down, holds you back. Resentment, regret. That makes 2019 go for the next 5 years. We need to let them go. We need to accept what has happened, whatever that happens to be, even if it is terrible, and realize it no longer needs to control my life. We're not saying it wasn't terrible. I didn't say condone it. I said accept it. There's a difference. Just make your peace with it and realize it no longer needs to control my life. The way things have been does not have to control where I'm going now. So, when you accept what's happened, you find that without attachment to the negative energies that we've invested in these patterns, in these experiences, we can go forward. We're free. Remember? Closure is very freeing. So, we want to release everything that held us back in 2019. How do we do it? I don't know. I do it the way I do everything else in terms of closure. Admit your regrets. Put them on the table. Don't pretend you don't have them and ferry them while hanging on. Admit you got them and that you're going to turn away from them. Yeah, I probably could have handled things better. Now, good things happen too. And we made, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, so obviously sometimes all we remember is the bad stuff. Force yourself to remember the good. There was good stuff went down too. So we're going to cherish the good that happened in 2019 or even further back if we need to go back. And then we're going to just try to feel at peace with the whole year. Well, it didn't go well. That's a fact, not a judgment. Okay? It's just a fact. Facts can be accepted. They don't have to be condoned. Just accept it. Yep, that was that. That was the way it was, and I'm at peace with that, and that leaves me free to totally turn away from it and step forward into a new and wonderful life. I want to hit one more thing, and that is contentment. Contentment's a gift. If you open up to it, the Spirit will allow contentment to flood your being. Once again, contentment is not condoning something. It is just, I am content. I'm at peace with it. And you're going to have to be at peace with your past in order to thoroughly release it. As long as you're not at peace with it, you probably can't let it go. So we got to be at peace. We're going to have to ask for that gift of contentment. Be content with where you are now and know that you're stepping forward into a whole new experience. Now, this in the end was very much part of Jesus' teaching. Matthew 18:21 through 22. Peter said to Jesus, "My Lord, if my brother is at fault with me, how many times should I forgive him?" You've heard this one over and over, right? Up to 7 times. And Jesus said to him, "I do not say to you up to 7 times, but up to 70 times 77. There's different versions. Some say 7 times 700. There's all kinds of things. But in each version, the final result is this huge number. Okay? The whole thing is that forgiveness isn't about being noble. It's about being free. Got it? We don't forgive because I am noble enough to be nice to you and forgive you. They don't deserve it. We know it. But we deserve to be free of all of that resentment. We deserve to not drag this any further. So in the end, Jesus is saying, you always forgive because you always want closure with the negative people experiences you've had. So you're not dragging them with you. And in Genesis 50:20, it's Joseph who talks about making peace with the experiences we have to go through, right? Joseph was sold into slavery by his brothers. He had just a wonderful life. He ends up in this as a slave, and so he decides, I'm going to be the best slave around. Bad decisions. He was so good, he stood out. His master's wife took note of him, and when he turned her down because he was true to his master, she said all kinds of things, and he ended up in the dungeon. Okay, so he's in the dungeon of, whatever, the royal dungeon. So he decides he'll be the best prisoner. Hey, this guy is just a Unity student. He can't be stopped. And in the end, out of this depth of years of difficult experience, something else happened. And out of it came this tremendous thing in which he was in the right place at the right time, being in the dungeon. And shortly he's elevated to where he's the second most powerful man in Egypt. So when his brothers show up, oh, this is interesting. These are the ones who sold him into slavery. And he is now this powerful being. And they're approaching and asking for food. When they find out who he is, now they really are scared. Instead, he says, don't fear. And then here we go, Genesis 5:20. As for you, you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good, to save many lives. This past flow of experiences, we have to know some good can come out of this. As long as we hold it as terrible, it always will be. Maybe it was terrible, but we have to. Being a prisoner was terrible. Being a slave was terrible. But out of it, this great good came. And we're going to look back at these experiences of our life that feel like our travails, the things we have to go through. And we're going to have to say, okay, it may have looked pretty evil, but good can come out of this. I'm ready to leave my resentment of all that I've had to go through behind so that I can embrace what lies in front of me. Philippians 3:13, Paul writes, forgetting those things which are behind, I strive for those things which are before me. Notice the first step is forgetting those things which are behind. Before you can really go forward, you got to find closure. You got to forget which is behind. You've got to be at peace with what has gone down so that you're free to claim all the good God has waiting for you. You want to claim what lies ahead. So what I want to do is close off by spending some time here. Just closing our eyes and going through a little bit of this closure stuff. Let's start with, we said ourselves, we're going to think of someone. We're going to do the people relationships. This can be someone that was in 2019, but it also could be someone out of your childhood or someone who irritates the tar out of you and you've never been able to get beyond that. It's time. So who do you feel this negative energy when you think of them? Well, sit them down in your mind right in front of you. And think of what your regrets are in this relationship. How would you have handled things differently? Apologize for your part in this negativity, even if it's a small part. Now switch gears and think of what was good, because there was good with everyone and everything. What was good? Cherish the goodness that came out of this relationship. Now, having put on the table your regrets and cherish the goodness, time to just make peace with it. Make peace with them and feel God's gift of contentment flooding your being as you picture them. We're going to affirm, I love you, I bless you, I wish the best for you. Yeah, we can wish the best for them. We're not going to be around anyway, right? We're taking our leave. I love you, I bless you, I wish the best for you, and I release you. That's the kicker. I release you. It's on the screens if you haven't got it down. I love you, I bless you, I wish the best for you, and I release you. Together, I love you, I bless you, I wish the best for you, and I release you. Now let them go. And turn forward towards the promise of the life that lies before you and all the possibilities. Now we're going to try to get closure for some experience we're hanging on to that still holds negative feelings for us. So what experience still holds negative feelings when you think of it? The first step is accept what has happened. Just accept it. We don't have to condone it. We just accept it. We just pull the energy out. Kind of like Jesus accepted being thrown into slavery. No, I'm sorry, Joseph. Realize it's brought me to where I am now. And good lies before me. You have tremendous promise of good in front of you. Don't blow it. Let the old go. Let the past go. Let the experience, the pattern disappear. Make peace with it. And feel God's gift of contentment flood your being. Just feel contentment and feel it even as you now remember the experience. We affirm God somehow will bring good out of this. God somehow will bring good out of this. Together, God somehow will bring good out of this. Now release it. Let it flow on down the river and turn forward. Turn forward ready to claim your good. So let's wrap it all together and have closure for 2019. And everything from that year that would hold us back. Examine your regrets. How you wish you'd done things a little differently last year. Now release them. Cherish the good things that happened last year. The good that came to you in 2019. And make peace with the whole year. Feel contentment sweeping over you as you look back over the year that is just finished. We affirm, I let go of the past cycle and embrace all the gifts God has for me in 2020. It's on the screens if you don't know it. I'm going to do it one more time. I let go of the past cycle and embrace all the gifts God has for me in 2020. Together, I let go of the past cycle and embrace all the gifts God has for me in 2020. So feel yourself just releasing the whole year. It's just floating down the river. And turn forward. Turn away from what has been to the wonderful promise of where you're going now, toward all the good that awaits you in 2020. And one last time, image the Holy Spirit flowing over you as a beautiful white light. As it flows through your being, it sweeps away the past. Just sweeps it away. All the past negation, in whatever form it takes, it just sweeps it away. And in doing so, opens the way into all the good that God has for me in 2020. The past is gone. And I can feel what lies before me. And it is wonderful. Thank you, God.